beer. Someone sent this to my P.O. box, and I love them. Hello YouTube, there is going to be a lot of fast talking in this video. Get ready. So every once in a while we jump into the realm of education on this channel and you get to hear me gush about topics I am ridiculously fascinated with. And the subject I am absolutely jazzed about currently is labels, or the ABCs of LGBT, if you will. But I don't want to talk about the generic mainstream labels. Most of us know the L stands for lesbian, the G for gay, and many of us have a decently solid idea of what these labels mean. At least to us. So what I would like to cover today are the identities that are less accepted, more unique, mis- or underrepresented, and sometimes hella ambiguous. What can I say? Gray spaces are like crack to me. Hopefully by the end of this video your mind is blown with the amount of variation out there and your knowledge of sexual and gender diversity is broadened. Maybe you'll even discover a word you never knew existed but resonates deeply with you. So let's get the ball rolling with a ton of sexualities that exist between the hetero and homo ends of the orientation spectrum. Note that these are very important to talk about because there is a lot of middle of the spectrum or bi-erasure out there, and that's not cool. These identities are valid, beautiful, not confused, and often underrepresented or even excluded from the queer world. I am not one to play the oppression Olympics, but when you don't quite fit into a heterosexual mold and at the same time you face scrutiny and inner minority hate from your fellow queer community members, it can be a very lonely feeling. So let's break down all of these labels and talk about their similarities and some of the subtle nuances that make them different. Bisexuality traditionally means that a person is sexually attracted to more than one gender. Pansexuality is similar, however its prefix is obviously different, being pan, which means all. Therefore, pan people actively acknowledge in their label that gender is a non-binary concept. They can fall in love with any gender, and many pan people like and choose to use this qualifier because it's trans-inclusive. Why else might a person choose to identify as pan rather than bi? Well, unfortunately, bisexuality has a lot of incorrect and negative stigma surrounding it. There are many misconceptions that bisexuals are slutty or confused. With the label pan, you avoid this and are sometimes taken more seriously. Because, let's be real, pansexual sounds hella queer. On the flip side, why might someone choose to identify as bi rather than pan? Because no one freaking knows what pan means. Usually when a pan person comes out, they have to follow up their label with a 10-minute explanation. This can be annoying. Also, if you don't do it right, it can come off pretentious. Oh, well I identify as pansexual. What? You've never heard of it before? Let me enlighten you, simple peasant. First off, gender is a non-binary concept. See what I mean? Bi, on the other hand, is simple and clear. Some argue that it's transphobic, however, because the prefix bi technically means two, as in there are two genders, man and woman. But I'm not so sure. I know plenty of people who interpret the two in bi as meaning loving the same gender and loving other genders. They would be very open to falling in love with a trans person. So bi, pan, it's totally up to you. Personally, I identify with both. On to more middle of the spectrum orientations. Omni means all, ambi means both or ambiguous, multi means multiple, and poly means many. So these are all sexualities where there is an attraction to more than one gender. Some people interpret ambi, multi, poly, and bi as being different from pan and omni. They state that these identities are attracted to many, but not necessarily all genders, while these identities could fall for someone of any gender. In some cases, people who identify with these labels describe themselves as being gender blind. This simply means that gender does not play a significant role in who they are and aren't attracted to. Others who identify with these labels feel completely the opposite. They might find masculinity or femininity or androgyny or etc. all very attractive in their own unique ways. They see, embrace, celebrate, and are attracted to all genders. So by now you might be thinking something like, wow, there sure are a lot of words for essentially the same identity, and you're right! But subtle nuances and interpretations can make them all different, and these slight differences can be very significant for some people. So it's important that you let them self-identify and respect the qualifier they choose. On the flip side, someone else might see the differences in these orientations as personally negligible, choose to identify with them all, and use them interchangeably. And that's totally okay too, everyone's different. And if you're looking for a fun umbrella term for all of these awesome middle of the spectrum orientations, queer or multisexual could both be options for you. Now let's backtrack to that buzzword self-identifying. This is the idea that people have power over not only the labels they choose to use when describing themselves, but also what these labels mean. My pansexuality might be different from your pansexuality. My bi might be different from your bi, but we're still both allowed to use these words and our own personal, individual definitions for them. You gotta own the word does not own you. Now on to scoliosexuality. This one's really unique and blows my mind. This orientation is when a person is attracted to non-cisgender or non-binary individuals. So for example, trans, genderqueer, or androgynous people. How cool! How about homo or heteroflexible? These identities have an ultimate preference, typically veering towards either the same or other genders. However, they acknowledge the possibility and instances where they stray from their usual preference. Now that we're all chatted up about sexual orientations, let's make things a little more complex. Every prefix we have just covered and more can all be applied to a romantic orientation. Unlike sexual orientation or who a person is sexually attracted to, romantic orientation is who a person is romantically or emotionally attracted to. Who they say might want to date versus make out with. And fun fact, sexual and romantic orientations do not have to match up. You can be pansexual but homo-romantic or heterosexual but bi-romantic. Okay, I think it is about time we cover an identity that is all too often left out. The aces and the eros. You see, the amount of sexual that a person is exists on a spectrum. A sexual person experiences sexual attraction and desires. However, an asexual person does not. Important. Now this is very different than celibacy. That is a choice. Celibate people choose not to engage in sexual behaviors. Asexual people, however, simply don't have the attraction or desire. This doesn't necessarily mean they don't have sex though. Some choose to have consensual sex for the benefit of their partner, or other reasons. Some don't. Everyone is different. And you guessed it, aromantic people don't experience romantic attraction. Super important fun fact though, aromantic and asexual people can live very happy and fulfilled lives without these desires. In fact, this might be hard for you to wrap your mind around, but their sex and their relationship could even be way better than yours. This is another identity that is often forgotten or underrepresented, so it's very important we talk about them. Also, if you find yourself somewhere on the spectrum between asexual and aromantic, and sexual and romantic, you might like the label demisexual or demi-romantic, meaning you do not experience attraction unless you form a strong emotional connection with someone. Whew, now on to some non-binary gender identities. Ha! Look at the time, this is like a jillion-minute long YouTube video. And I still have so much to talk about. Tune in next week to explore gender and hopefully meet some non-binary guests. Leave a comment if any of these identities resonated with you, or please share if you think there is another label that is mis- or underrepresented. Okay, bye! Follow me on Twitter!
I've been asked on behalf of Ashley to have you subscribe and like. Pretty please for me, like for me, please like for me. Pretty please for me, I'll give you fake money.